Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mike McMahon, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hymn Society, and I am really delighted today to be welcoming Gerardo Oberman for a conversation and as part of our interview series. Gerardo was born in the Netherlands, but he and his family emigrated to Argentina when he was young. He was ordained a minister in the Reformed Church in 1993. He is one of the founding members of the Red Crearte network of Latin Americans who are dedicated to music, liturgy, and liturgical formation. He's a poet. He's I think still currently the president of the Reformed Church in Argentina, and so he's a busy guy. And so I'm very happy to be able to have this conversation with him today. And also we became acquainted really through when the Hymn Society was preparing to celebrate its 100th anniversary. We really wanted to have a lot of involvement from other groups concerned about congregational singing from around the world, and that's when we made a connection with Red Crearte and with Gerardo particularly. So it's been a great experience to work with him and to receive his insights. So here we are talking today. Thank you, Gerardo, for being with us.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And yes, that opportunity to be part of the centenary anniversary of the Hymn Society was really an amazing time to share with you, and also to learn to know other people and to meet people that I already knew through the internet, but in that case in person. It was really a great opportunity.
That's true. You know, as part of our preparations, we had 3 Zoom meetings with leaders of various organizations from around the world to talk about how we were going to handle a panel. And it was really an incredible experience, really, just to have those conversations, but even more to come together at the conference and do it in person and to meet one another. So it's been a very fruitful relationship for us, and I'm grateful to you for that. I was wondering if we could just start at the beginning. And you know, I know that you and your family emigrated to Argentina when you were young, and I was wondering, you know, what it was in your early life that got you attracted to church and ministry and music. How did all that start?
Well, being almost in my 60s, going back to my early years, it's really a challenge. You already said I was born in the Netherlands, in a very nice and beautiful city called Kampen, where my father studied theology, and there he met my mother. And as a young child, we immigrated to Argentina, not by plane, by flight, but in a boat. The trip was already 40 days. And I heard from my mother, because I was a young child, that it was a really a big experience to make it. And my mother also told me that when I was around 3 years old, I would climb the sand dunes behind the church and shout, raising my hand to heaven, "Praise the Lord!" and invite the neighbors, saying, "Let us pray, brothers and sisters." Well, it seems that my vocation was already being formed there from a very early age. Well,
You said
there were not too much options, because my father was a pastor, so I learned from him how to do some things, some churchy things, and I just repeated it as a young child. And as a pastor's son, life took us to different cities in Argentina. And it was in the south of the country, in Patagonia, a very nice place in Argentina. If you sometime come to here, please visit Patagonia. It's a very nice place to know. And it was there when I guess I discovered that I had a kind of let's call it gift for writing stories and poems. And I also learned to play the guitar at that time in a very self-taught way. And the combination of writing poems or some lyrics and playing the guitar led me to join a rock band called Karmas.
Ah,
Karmas has also a very special meaning, so it is not coincidence. And with that rock band, we made, I think, very pretty good music at that time. So I think in some way that was the place where my vocation strongly began to grow up.
wow. So you went into the family business, so to speak.
Yes, I was in the family business, yes. And from that time, I also began to be a young leader in my local congregation and later on in the national level. The Reformed churches in Argentina, I'm Reformed, are very small churches. So when I'm saying that I was involved in national level, that means maybe nothing for you that are very big structures in the United States. But I was really, since my 17, let's say, very strong involved in church life. I was ordained deacon from my church also when I was 18. And at some point of my life, I decided to study theology that developed a very strong discussion in at home because my father did not have good experiences in the church in mostly conservative and ethnic communities. Maybe you know it, but let me tell you that Reformed churches in Argentina were formed from a wave of migrants coming from the Netherlands
Yes.
in the late 19th, and in the Patagonia from another wave coming from South Africa. So the Reformed Church were formed from that two wave of migrations, and the church at that time was very conservative, and my father had not have good experiences in mostly all the churches where he was pastor. And when I told him I wanted to study theology, he told me, no, no way. That is not a good idea. Please study other thing and you will avoid any kind of problems in the future. But so I started to study other things in the university in the place where I was growing up. But when God calls, it's
Right.
very difficult to say no. So here I am.
That's so awesome. Now, you got your interest in ministry. You're obviously influenced by your family. Did you also get involved in musical leadership in the church?
Well, there was no other options in some of the churches where I was pastor because we have no possibilities here to pay for a musician in our churches.
Mhm.
So it is a very appreciated skill if you can play some instrument. And I couldn't play a guitar, so that was really uh, a good thing to accompany my pastoral ministry.
So were you
And
playing the rock band?
let me also say, sorry, let me also say that when I studied theology, I met very good musicians, and they inspired me also to give music in church a very special place. And when I was studying in Argentina, in a university formed by 9 different Protestant churches, denomination, Presbyterians, Reformed, Methodist, Anglicans, Disciples of Christ, Mennonites, some Pentecostal churches. So I grew up in a very ecumenical um, uh, setting. And I met there as Pablo Sosa, that you know very well in the Hymn Society. I met Federico Pagura. I met Homero Pereira. Very, very good songwriters. And of course, they inspired all kinds of fantasies about being some composer sometime. And that inspired me really very, very strong in my study time.
That's awesome. Did you play in the rock band on Saturday night and then in church on Sunday morning?
Yeah, that was a fight for my family
Uh,
to help me to stand up in the morning and to go to church. Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you did you serve as pastor at some different churches around the country yourself?
I served as pastor in maybe four churches until now in different cities in Buenos Aires itself. I am back now in Buenos Aires, and I served in a church in the south part of Argentina, and I served in a church related to another denomination for some years. And I'm back in the Reformed Church in Buenos Aires. Yeah, as a volunteer pastor,
I see.
because the churches are so small here in Argentina that they have no possibility to pay pastors, no longer. There is only one of our churches, local churches, still with some possibility to pay a pastor. So I'm trying to make my money in other ways,
Sure.
not from the church.
That's really interesting. So I mean, I think we're pretty familiar with the volunteer musician in this country, but the volunteer pastor is less common in the United States.
Mm,
But we are seeing an increase in the number of bivocational pastors, who are working in one field during the week, and then on Sunday, the weekends, they're working as pastors.
mhm.
That would you say that's predominant in Protestant denominations in Argentina?
For sure, in the Pentecostal churches, in almost all the Pentecostal churches, the pastors are working in other things.
Yeah.
In the business or doing some humble things in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And in the weekends they put their pastoral jacket and they work as pastors. But in the Protestant churches is some new thing. I think I'm the first one. I took the decision by myself some years ago because I was facing the economic difficulties of the church, so I decided to do my work on a volunteer basis. But now the case is that the churches can't longer pay a pastor. If I want to go back to my previous way to work for the church as paid pastor, it is no longer possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Because our local churches are no uh, larger than maybe 50 people, sometimes 30. No, not much than that. So the Protestant life in Latin America is very different as the way you consider Protestant churches in other parts of the world.
Mhm.
So you must have that in mind. Yeah.
Yes. So
And 40 years later, that the discussion I had with my father, I I must agree with him that the being a pastor in conservative and small churches is not easy task.
would you say that your churches are still pretty conservative, or
Well, there are some waves during the decades.
mhm.
We had a very good time in the 80s. The church opened widely the doors of the churches to invite people to come in and to make some social and diaconal work in the neighborhoods. But now it's it's like a little bit what's happening in the political sphere. So you are if you look what is happening in other parts of the world and in your own country where you are, and in my country in Argentina, it's this kind of movement. Sometimes are we going to very liberal churches, and then we are moving to be again more conservative churches, and we are facing now some wave of conservative movement in between the church.
I think
And more than conservative, I can say that it is a fundamentalist wave what we are facing now in almost all the churches here in Argentina. Most of them supporting what's happening in the political area. Most of the churches are supporting it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think in this country, churches are not necessarily becoming more conservative, but those movements have resulted in the churches splitting. There have been a lot of divisions in the churches.
Yeah, but is that happening because the politics, or but
it's related.
Related to other kind of things, more related to human sexuality and that kind of things? Because what I'm listening from here is that it maybe is related to that kind of issues.
That's true, but the human sexuality issues are deeply related to the political currents right now, because the current government is going after people. So there's a pretty strong relationship, I think.
Yeah. What was happening with me the last week? I was trying to find some songs related to migration, to all the migrant issue.
Yes.
And I went to a very good hymnal called Santo, 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 Holy, Holy, Holy. It's a bilingual hymn book. And I can see it, yeah. And I was trying to find some song, and I couldn't find any in Santo, 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 in that hymnal. And then I tried to make a broader research in the hymn book and try to find some songs related to gender issues. No songs. To LGBT question, no songs. To some diversity songs, a few songs, only a few songs. So there is a lot of work to do for songwriters, for liturgists, for composers, for musicians, to write songs about this kind of issues, and we strongly need it in our churches. I don't know what's the case where you are living, but in any case here in our context in Latin America, we strongly need songs and liturgical resources related to that issues.
In English, there are quite a few songs, I think, on all of those issues. And the Hymn Society has been instrumental in fostering the creation of those kinds of songs. And on our website, we have collections of songs around LGBTQ issues, around immigration, and about times of crisis. So, but it's fascinating to me to hear you say that in Spanish, it's hard to find those.
Yeah, it's hard to find, and that's a challenge for us to compose that kind of songs, because it is not always good just to translate what other people wrote in other countries, in other contexts, because I strongly defend contextual liturgy and contextual music writing some. So I think it's more a challenge for us than maybe for you in this case.
I think the challenge for us is probably more getting them into the churches and into the hymnals. The people can find these things on the Hymn Society website, but whether they'll find them in their denominational hymnals, I think, is another question. Although recent ones have been very, very good. The Mennonites have a new hymnal, and the Presbyterians have one that's about 10 years old. and those are both pretty strong on those kinds of topics. But as long as you brought up contextualization, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about Red Crearte, because I know that you were one of the founding members, and some of the things you're talking about right now are, I assume, part of the goal of Red Crearte. Yes?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Red Crearte was created in 2004. You already said it in the presentation, I think, as an initiative of a group of people interested in promoting a working space in the field of music and liturgy from a Latin American and ecumenical perspective. We wanted to be a space independent of any institutional back and forth, because previously some of us worked with the Latin American Council of Churches in a liturgical network, but it was related to many institutional discussions, and it was not possible to make all things we wanted or we wished to do in that space. So we created a new space, trying to be independent of any institutional back and forth, which had and has advantage, but also some complications. And among the biggest complication is the self-sustainability of what we are trying to do. Because in countries like ours, it is not always easy to find the funding to do things. We don't have a Calvin Institute of Christian Worship in Argentina, neither in Latin America. We don't have access to the Lilly Endowment Fund. We don't have access to other kind of donors to support our work. So we are still working, but always since the beginning, since the year 2004, on a volunteer basis, and also giving some of our own resources to make it possible. One good thing is that we have many different traditions involved in our network. There's not only a Protestant one, because we have some Catholic members, we have Pentecostal members in our network, in our Red Crearte network, and that gives us really a very ecumenical perspective in the work we are doing. And we are very grateful to the people that whose footsteps we are following. Pablo Sosa, I already mentioned them. Jaci Marachin, Simei Monteiro, Noel Dexter, Homero Pereira, all that kind of people. We are a kind of idols in Latin America. Ernesto Barros Cardoso from Brazil, people who opened the way for our generation to make possible what we are doing now. Yeah.
I'm really interested in you identifying that the network is both ecumenical and independent. And I mean, the Hymn Society is very much the same. That we have a broadly ecumenical community, but we're not really accountable to any. Any one particular religious denomination, and that I think strengthens our ability to work together without having interference from institutional forces.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot to do in the relationship we already are building, trying to build in any case, since some years ago, and also involving other hymn societies around the world.
Right.
Because one of my concerns, and I think also from your side, is to prepare the next generation of liturgical and musical leaders for our ecumenical movement. What I saw in the last WCC assembly in Karlsruhe in Germany is that all the people involved in liturgy, for sure we co-opted some younger musicians, but the leadership of the worship committee we all were in the 50s and 60s. So we are in the necessity to prepare the next generation of liturgical leaders for the ecumenical movement. And we can't do it by ourselves. We need to do it with a common vision and sharing the gift of different people around the world, like what you are doing in the Hymn Society, Red Crearte, the Hymn Society in Japan, in Germany, in Britain, to just to talk about this and to find a way to make it possible.
Yes, for sure. So Red Crearte has been involved in developing some new resources in Spanish. Is that new songs? Yes.
We are always trying to find songs and to share it in our YouTube channel. And a good thing to let know the people that are joining us here is that they can not only find the song and listen to the song, but also download it and download the scores and use it for free, because we are using the Creative Commons license that allows people to use the resources. And so that's a good news for people around the world. We are not under the copyright system that sometimes gives some restriction to people to use the materials. And we also are promoting some local, how you call it in English, local Red Crearte spaces in different countries.
Gathering troops.
That's what we are doing in a continental level, regional level. We are trying to develop local spaces for Red Crearte. And we started a group in the United States the past year. There are some people involved in it. You know some of them, maybe Tercio Juncker, who's part of the Hymn Society for many years, who was part of it, at least. And to impulse that people to create also resources in a contextual way. We have a new group in Cuba. We are opening this year a new group in Puerto Rico. We already have one in Mexico. We have also one in Brazil, who's very strong in Brazil, and in the River Plate, Uruguay and Argentina and Paraguay. We have also another group, and all of the groups are creating resources and putting them for free in the website, in our Facebook space, and also in YouTube.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if everybody that's tuned in right now knows that last year, Red Crearte and the Center for Congregational Song were involved in sponsoring an event in Colombia, Barranquilla, to bring together Latin American, musicians from around Latin America and music leaders of Latin American descent from around the United States. And I understand that was a very, very successful event.
It was not only successful, but also very moving overall for the Latinos living in the United States that came some for the first time again to Latin America to meet other musicians and liturgists and make some things together, create together, sharing some concerns and also some dreams. And we are now trying to go for a second round in Brazil next September. We are still working on it. We have some funding, but we are still looking for some sponsorship to make it possible. But we are hopeful people, and we think that it will be possible. So if you are interested in it, please let us know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know Brian is working on it too.
Yes, very hard, very hard.
And I think the center is planning to, be involved in this gathering as well. So it's really awesome.
But in what I'm concerned a little bit, and I think it's a very, very good issue to bring for discussion in some hymn society webinars or meeting of conference is the issue of artificial intelligence,
Uh-huh.
which poses very concrete challenges to those of us in the field of liturgy and music in ministry. I know some colleagues who have already asked to the artificial intelligence for sermons, for prayers, and to write their notes or something like that. And other colleagues who want to be composers without knowing anything about music use some apps to create songs. And they are very happy to that. And they use that songs created by artificial intelligence in their own worship services. So what do we have to say about that in terms of ethics, in terms of respects for those who have studied music and liturgy? I think it presents a big question mark for us.
So do you have any thoughts on the ethics of all that?
No, not at all.
That's
But
possible.
I think we need to open the floor, because I know some people also in our churches with a different perspective about it. Because some of them say, we are small churches. We have no possibility to buy instruments. We have no musicians. We can't pay any musician to write some songs for us. But we have good lyrics, and we want to put that lyrics good music. So we put the lyrics in an app, and the app create the music, and the music sounds good, and we like it. So we need also to hear the other perspectives and have an open discussion about it, because it raises also the question of copyrights. Who is the owner of that song?
Right.
And if you want to be the song published in some hymnal, is that possible or not? Who will you give the credit of it? So
I mean, I think you're right that it's a field that we have only begun to explore.
yes, of course.
But
Of
on the
course.
other hand, we can't put our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Mhm.
It's there, and it's here to stay, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think the question is whether we're going to use it, but how are we going to use it? And
Maybe it's that the first question, not if it's possible, because people are already using it. We are
exactly.
using it. And when we are asking our computer to translate some text that we can't read in German or in Chinese, and artificial intelligence translated it for us. So we are already using it.
In fact, right now we're talking on Zoom, and
Yeah.
Zoom has artificial intelligence that is listening to us right now. And at the end of this interview, it will give us a summary of the entire.
Oops.
Seriously,
Incredible.
it will. It's amazing, but
Well,
it's here.
yeah. And if we want to involve the younger generation also in our church, any kind of church activity, we need to find a way to make it attractive in any way, to bring them back to our churches because I don't know what's the reality in the United States or in other parts of the world, but I can imagine it. It is like what's happening here in Argentina, that we are losing a generation or two or three.
Yes.
So how to make our church services, at least, let's not talk about other activities, but only talk about our church services on Sunday. How can we make it more, I don't like the word attractive, but it's the word that came to my mind.
Engaging.
Eh?
Engaging.
Engaging for the younger generations. We need to think very, very fast in it, because otherwise we will lose them forever.
So, can you tell me a little bit about what are people singing right now in Argentina in church? What are they singing?
Well, we sing from many different sources. We have the traditional hymnals, of course. We sing some European hymns and North American hymns that the missionaries brought to us, and some of them very good translated and with a very strong poetry and theology. We are also singing some called coritos. You know the word for sure, that were developed when the missionaries came to make big campaigns here in Latin America, and they needed very short refrains, and we sing some of them. And we also sing the songs we began to compose in the year since the 70s in Latin America, and include in a hymnal called Cancionero Abierto, open songbook. There is a very, very nice collection of songs there, and also the new songs that we are composing in for, let's say, in our Red Crearte, we have more than 500 songs there. So some of them we already incorporated in our worship services.
And what are you hoping to, how would you like to see the singing of people in Latin America change? I mean, what would you, um, what are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, not only here in Latin America, but I think globally, is to provide an alternative to all the songs that are coming from the gospel industry. All that kind of song coming from the gospel industry has the same goal, also the same format, because if you are going to a big church, a free church in Indonesia, and then you are going to a big church in Finland and the United States and in Paraguay, you will find the same structure of songs and the same content, with a very bad theology, prosperity theology, meritocratic theology. And I think the big challenge is to provide alternative to that kind of music that are, that the industry are pushing to be part of our worship services.
Yeah,
That's the biggest challenge for me.
that makes a lot of sense. I think we experience the same challenges.
Yeah, for sure. I call it Hillsongization. We had a discussion sometime before about this topic.
We did. And
Yeah.
actually, I wanted to see if you wanted to talk about that a little.
And there's other kind of thing that I can't. I need to study it a little bit more. That is I call it Asburization of worship. That kind of sense that you will find some spiritual, I don't know what, if you sing for long times, very specific kind of music. And but that's why I'm saying that I need to study it a little bit more, because young people are engaged with that kind of experiences.
Yes. Well, I think
So we can't reject it without discussing it first. So, but it, that's two streams. That's the Hillsongization, so the invasion of music coming from the global industry of music, and the Asburization of a kind of spiritual experience, are two challenges that need to be discussed in broader spaces than this one.
I think those are related, that they both are aimed at our feelings and trying to in many ways make us feel better and feel better about ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as we're also preaching the gospel and singing the gospel, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But in any case, it make me think in some issues that need to be discussed in a broader in a broader circle of people with enough knowledge about it that
Yes.
I don't have for sure.
Well, I mean, you're contributing to this, and I was before we we started today. I was saying that I'd spent some time this morning reading some of your poems, and you are not afraid to use very vivid language to help us to make us challenged to see the gospel in every day, or how the gospel is challenging us right now.
Mhm.
And can you say a little bit about your poetry? Why do you write poetry? And how would you like to make a difference through your poetry?
Oof. It's a deep question because I don't consider myself a poet in the sense that I studied to be a poet, uh, or if I never studied literature, so I consider it a gift, and the poems came to me. They are coming to me. I don't not looking for it. They come to me, and what I like to do for the last 10 years is to make a kind of theo poetry or poetry related to theology or to the Bible, and also to some social issues. And why? Because I think the gospel is very social and also very political. The Lord's Prayer, the prayer that Jesus teaches us, the prayer that is praised in almost every worship service around the world. Is it a spiritual prayer? Is it a social prayer? Is it an economical prayer? Is it a political prayer? It is all of this and more.
Mhm.
The reflection of Jesus after reading the book of Isaiah in the synagogue, was it a message um, only with the spiritual content, or was it a very social, challenging message? And the final judgment in Matthew 25, what will it be like? Uh, I don't know. There are a lot of social issues in the Gospels that I think need to be reflected in a way, in a more accessible way for common people. And sometimes poetry give that possibility. The poetry is a kind of bridge uh, between the Bible and the way that people can't easily understand some very complex issues included in the Gospels.
Yeah, I really appreciate your comments because it sort of goes to how the arts, poetry, music, even worship itself is an art in a way, huh?
Of
That
course.
that those have a very important connection to the social issues that surround us, and I see that in your work.
Yeah, I have a friend. You should invite him for a conversation. Luis Carlos Ramos. He is a very good liturgist from Brazil. He says that worship includes the seven different arts:
Mm.
visual, literature, cinema. I don't have the full list in my mind.
Dance, I would
He,
imagine.
sorry?
Dance by that.
Yes, yes, of course, all of them. And he has a very interesting point of view about that that should be very worthy if you invite him sometime.
Well, please put us in touch. I would love.
Yeah, of course, I will do.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left where time is going so fast. I was wondering a little bit about your experience with the Hymn Society. You came in 2022, and I wonder what your impressions were from that experience.
Well, I think it's a good space to where people can
Mhm.
meet. I don't know the just conjugation of the verb. Um, where you can encounter other people doing the same things that are in your heart, that's doing music, writing songs, and it gives a space where you can be challenged with different kinds of views about music. But I think it should invest more in interculturality. I know you are doing a big effort for it, trying to invite people from around the world, and sometimes the finances are not the best to make it possible. But for me and also for other members of our Red Crearte, it was a very, very wonderful opportunity to learn about the work, the history, and what the Hymn Society is still doing today. And the interest was really so big that we tried to make it again the next years. And I guess we could participate one more time after that. And we will have another group from the Red Crearte in the United States going also this year. So we will stay in contact with the Hymn Society and to dream some things that we can do together. I think we have a lot of challenges in our way that we can share and also participate, as I already said before, other partners around the world to generate a good space to discuss many issues that we can't solve by our own.
Thank you. We've had some comments in the chat, and the one I want to point out is Andrew Donaldson is watching.
It's a very good friend. Thank you for all your gifts and for all your translations and songs, Andrew.
Yes, and he is still working on a group that's putting together songs, a song collection for the centennial. Here we are 3 years later, and we're still working on a song collection. I think I'm going to see Andrew at a meeting later this afternoon. So, but he says you're very welcome, and I know he holds you very dear.
He's just translating the last theme song that I wrote for the WCRC assembly in Chiang Mai next October. Persevere in your witness, persevere. Persevere in your witness, persevere. Act with justice, walk with God. Humbly day by day. Persevere in your witness, persevere.
Can you sing it in español también?
Persevera en tu testimonio fiel. Persevera en tu testimonio fiel. Con justicia junto a Dios, siempre en humildad. Persevera en tu testimonio fiel. I can't sing it in French, Andrew, sorry. Not yet, but I will learn it.
Thank you so much. That seems like actually a good place for us to leave it. To persevere and witness.
Yes,
that's what we need to do, right?
And the German translation was made by Fritz Baltruveit, also a very known composer in Germany that provide many songs for our liturgies and worship services.
Well, Gerardo, thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for coming here to talk today. It's been a real joy for me to do this.
It was my pleasure. And there are friends that are listening this webinar or interview. Sorry for my English, for my mistakes. I'm sure you could understand anything.
You were perfectly clear. There were no problems. It was
okay.
Not only clear, it was inspiring. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. We'll hope to see you again next month. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you. Thank you for all.